Welcome to class. We are focusing on our hips, our glutes, and our hamstrings, all key areas for any hiker who loves to go up and down mountain trails. This is an opportunity to go a little deeper into all of these poses, which you'll see in every strength sequence, and understand more deeply how it's supporting the health of your hips, your glutes, and your hamstrings. Let's get started. Let's start in downward facing dog. Bring your hands to the mat, shoulder width distance, and walk your feet to the back of your mat. Press your palms deep into the floor. So first fingers are 12 o'clock, and you can actually check and really ground down into the knuckles at the base of your first and middle finger, and you can actually lift your fingertips off the floor to check that alignment. And now lift your tailbone up towards the ceiling, and you may notice when you press into the middle of your palms, your shoulders roll up towards your ears. Soften them down your back and lift your tailbone towards the ceiling. The reason we do that is we want length in our tailbone so we can press our heels down towards the floor and you can get more deeply into your hamstrings here. Spin your tailbone up towards the sky. Set your gaze right between your big toes and come into your Ujjayi breath. Downward facing dog is a really amazing whole body stretch and strengthening. And the more you press into your heels, the more action you'll start to feel in opening into your hamstrings here. We'll add on to our downward facing dog. Bring your big toes together. Lift your right leg straight behind you. Bend your right knee. Rotate your right hip on top of your left hip. So you're getting a big stretch into your right hip to start. Flex your toes on your right foot and hook your foot towards your low back and stretch your right knee even higher towards the ceiling. Another way to check on this is to lift your left hip farther back, lengthening your torso. We'll add on hip rotations. Bring your right knee in towards your left knee, and then roll your right knee out to the side wall and lift up and back. And this is a nice dynamic hip opening, rolling in and then rolling out to get some stretch and movement into your hip, but not necessarily a passive movement. We're getting into dynamic opening. And reverse the direction. Bring your right knee out and then in, and then lift out and in. One more time, lift out and in. Extend your right leg straight back and lower your right foot to the floor. Inhale, lift your left leg straight back behind you. Bend your left knee and roll your left hip open on top of your right. The temptation is to drop your right shoulder towards the floor. Keep your right shoulder level with your left. Stretch your left knee higher. Flex your toes on your left foot. Open up your toes. Hip rotations. Bring your left knee in towards your right. Roll your knee out and wide, getting big open circles. Knee in and then open out wide. Again, knee in and open out wide. Reverse the direction. Left knee out and bring it back in and open wide and out and back in. And one more time, open out and right back in. Roll your knee open and lower your left foot back to your mat into your downward facing dog. The next pose, which you've seen already a lot, and I'll start with my left side, is Warrior 2. Warrior 2 is awesome for strengthening and stability in your legs. Going wider in your stance will challenge you to come deeper into the pose, keeping your left knee stacked over your front ankle. Remember, if your hip flexors are tight, you might see a bit of a cave in. You should be able to see your big toe past your front knee. Feel the action in your outer left glute. Press your left heel down and really focus on using your left glute to open your knee over your front ankle. Squeeze your back leg straight and strong and tilt your tailbone towards your mat. And once you're in the pose, you look over your left palm. Keep breathing deeply. So this one's super great for stability. Again, when we hold poses, we have a lot more opportunity to create more stability in our joints, your ankles, your feet. Press your heel down to activate into your hamstring and soften your shoulders. And of course, we always want to do both sides. So turn to the back of your mat, right side for your Warrior 2. Bend your front knee over your front ankle, so stack your joints. Soften your shoulder blades down into your back. Tilt your tailbone long and look over your front hand.
So right here, we're like, okay, am I challenging myself here? Sometimes I like to cheat a little bit and stay up in this pose. Instead, going in deeper, bending my right knee over my front ankle, because this is when I'm really starting to get into a lot more strength and stability into my hips, and relaxing my face and my shoulders, not showing at all that I might be challenged in the pose, and breathing deeply to stay in it here. And then slowly come all the way up on this side and turn your feet in, and we'll take a wide-legged forward fold, which is a great stretch into your hamstrings. So take your hands to your hips, pull your belly in and lift your chest up towards the ceiling, fold forward down towards the floor. Feet are parallel. Outer edges of your feet are roughly parallel with the edges of your mat. Lift the arches of your feet and walk your hands back in till you can pull your chest a little deeper down towards the floor. Squeeze your thigh muscles and squeeze your inner thighs up towards your pelvis and pull your chest down nice and deep. So you don't need your head on the floor. And if your head's far from the floor, you might think that that's not even possible. Some of you guys who are a little bit tighter might need a block right underneath your hands to stay in the forward fold. If you're more open and your head's almost to the floor, bring your feet in a little bit closer. Stay with your breath. Set your gaze on your mat and stick your tailbone way up towards the ceiling. Good. Walk your hands back underneath your shoulders. Skandasana. So widen your stance enough so you can bend so let's start with our right side. So bend your right knee over your right ankle. Walk your hands underneath your shoulders so you can keep your shoulders level with your hips. Pull your belly button up and in, soften your toes. Breathe here. And if you're going for more, you're like, yes, I can. Reach your arms straight out. Pull your shoulder blades in towards your back. So you're getting a lot of stability and strength into your right hip, as well as a nice stretch and opening into your left inner thigh. And slowly switch to your left side. Pull your shoulder blades in towards your back. So you're breathing deeply while you do this. And if you're like, I got this, I want to go deeper, great. Bring your hands back to the floor. Spin your right toes out. Keep your right heel grounded and spin your left toes up towards the ceiling for a deeper variation on Skandasana. The key is to keep your heel down on your bent leg. Spin your toes up towards the ceiling. Bring your elbows in towards your right elbow towards your right inner knee. Stay with your breath. So one of the key things I learned from talking to a physical therapist about the impact of hiking on our bodies is when we're going downhill, our quads have to take so much of the impact to protect our knees. And the longer you do it, the more over time, your quads get really tired, so you really need to strengthen them. So he's always like, when you go downhill, like move like a ninja, move really softly like a bear. And so I always think about that in particular when we're making the transition here. How do we move softly and slowly to the other side in Skandasana, which is something we should be bringing in anyway into our hiking. Like when you're moving downhill, instead of slam, 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 actually walking, creeping along down the trail as if someone is chasing you and you're really like scooting yourself down. So here again, your front heel is grounded into the floor. Spin your toes up towards the ceiling, feeling the big stretch into your inner thigh, lifting through your chest and breathing, of course, through this whole thing. You might look over your toes that are spun up towards the ceiling. Okay, and then come back to center into your forward fold. And let's come back to down dog. So walk your hands back to the front edge of your mat. Step your feet towards the back of your mat. Last pose we'll work into is hip opening, is your half pigeon. So bring your right knee to your right wrist. Flex your toes on your right foot. Tuck your back toes to start. Square your hips towards center. Pull your belly button up and in. And then slowly bring your elbows down towards your mat. You can relax your toes at this point, lengthening through your chest. So with our hips, because we work so much on strength and they're working really hard on the trail, it's also important to relax them and let them soften down a bit. So here you bring your forehead down to the floor. If you have a block, you could bring your forehead to the block. And notice how right here it comes into a deep intensity into your hips. Send your breath right there. Relax deeply.
And over time, you may find you could stay here for a minute or a couple of minutes. And slowly come up on this side. We'll come back through downward facing dog and switch. Bring your left knee to your left wrist, flex your toes again, square your hips, hug your thigh bones into center, lengthen through your chest, lower yourself down towards your elbows or bring your forehead all the way to the floor and send your breath into your hips. Sending the signal to your body to relax. Your body worked hard every time, or it works hard every time you're out on the trail. So right here, giving it some space, some opening, a lot of breath. And walk your hands back up. Come back through downward facing dog. And that is our class for hips, glutes, and hamstrings. Thanks for joining me.